The Severance is a Roblox game I encountered by complete accident while working on a future video. It is easily one of the most unnerving pieces of Roblox media I have encountered. Initially waking up in your small house, the game follows a continuous loop of eating and watching TV. The gameplay of The Severance isn't particularly interesting, but it doesn't have to be. It does a good job of presenting a mundane schedule to you because seemingly that's all that is there for you. That, and a mirror to simply check your reflection, as well as a random Polaroid photo of somebody's picnic that has been scribbled on to obscure this individual's name and face. Doing as the game instructs you, you can sleep that night. You awake once again after finishing your dream. It's more of the same. Eat, watch TV, you can even check your reflection again. Okay, a little bit more of the dream. The only difference today is that the music is much louder now, and when you check the mirror you have a large grin on your face. Eat, watch TV. Check the mirror again, go back to bed. Your once set-in-stone schedule is now nowhere in sight, waking up instead in the middle of the night after having seen a woman with no facial features and stolen eyes looking into you. Despite the horrifying dream, you decide to continue following your schedule you would normally follow whenever you wake up, like checking the There's something deeply disturbed about you. Your perception of reality is distorted, your hallucinations are growing increasingly more disturbing, and your mundane routine meant to distract you from the truth has been altered.
Hello. How long has it been? 3 days. 7 weeks. You need to let her go. You need to let her go. Just let her go.
Get up, check your reflection, go back to bed. At this point, it's not even a question of whether or not you've lost it, more so for how long. You continue your routine in this world that doesn't even seem like your own anymore. Your delusions slowly catch up to you. You're given an ultimatum. Open the basement door, or commit to your schedule and go back to bed. Assuming you're still hell-bent on retaining the same schedule as always, you retire to your room where you awake now in a black void. The picture of the picnic now becomes more apparent. It's Claire's picnic, giving a name to the eyeless woman of your nightmares. Another message within the void gives a hint towards your potential relationship with Claire. It's a romantic one. It's never explicitly stated what happened between you two, or whether or not Claire is a wife, girlfriend, or simply a romantic fling fling. Regardless, there's one last message deep inside of this chasm. It's a missing poster of this mysterious girl who's been tormenting you this entire time. What if you never chose to go back to bed though? What if the temptations of the door were just too much? Opening the door and venturing into your basement, you find a lot of the same evidence you found before, this time locked down here in this abysmal place rather than the one that simply cannot physically exist. You most likely locked these documents down here after not having the strength to bear looking at them anymore, aside from the scribbled copy you keep by your bedside to reminisce on. Opening the last door, you're met with the same white building you found yourself dreaming about, only instead of eyeless Claire, you're met instead by the woman who's been stalking you and was on the This entire time, you have been the villain. Claire, having left you, you couldn't possibly bear the weight of your loneliness. With her abrupt message and only a single picture left behind to reminisce, you kidnapped a woman to fill this void left behind by Claire, locking her in your basement, most likely to die of starvation, her rotting corpse paling and swarming with flies and gnats. But how long was she locked in that basement?
3 days. 7 weeks. Weeks.
Dark thematics aside, let's take a step back and look at a much happier and colorful game. My Game. It's not actually my game, but has the same title as you're met with this cute little polygonal character. It's slightly reminiscent of Petscop, but with the addition of the Japanese vaporwave aesthetic. Its background supposedly having a little moon drifting about, and the writing in the background translating to overall unimportant things like mentions of clouds. This unnamed character greets you fondly as you play its games, the first being a shell game, putting a tiny yellow puck under its cups as it shuffles them about. It was clear from the start that this game wasn't going to be a normal one, whether it was the fact that its vaporwave style additionally seems reminiscent of 2000s ARGs, or its pretty pink facade it presents seeming to drip with malice being too good to be true. It isn't too surprising something else is afoot here. Continuing with the next game, it's rock, paper, scissors. The background slowly becomes more and more ominous and grim as you continue your game, even the moon in the background fading into what appears to be an eyeball as it drifts side to side. Whomever this character is, these might be their games as mentioned at the very beginning of my game, but these sinister twists are not of their own volition as mentioned by why does he keep doing this? This little character seems to stare off into nothingness, entirely forgetting your existence before snapping back into reality, presenting the final and most dangerous game. As opposed to all the previous games in this card matching session, that cute character is now nowhere to be seen. You're completely alone with whatever greater will this game has. Matching card to card is easy enough, but it has the added pitfall of you being snatched. The final game isn't difficult, but beating and continuing forward you're met with Japanese text thanking you for playing the game, in addition to the mangled and eyeless corpse of your friend. On multiple playthroughs, the small character immediately presents all three games to you at the start. It's a surprising encounter, seeing as it doesn't even attempt to ease you in anymore. The more times you play, the more depressed the character gets, as if the game is keeping your friend shackled here to play its corrupted versions. It feels as though it's reaching out to you as you interact more in its clutches. Before I can cover this next game, I only feel it's right to explain its existence. Discombobulation is a game made on Roblox that is a near one-to-one creation of Anatomy by Kitty Horror Show. Due to this, it's important to note that if you want to support the creator or if you plan on playing this game, I highly recommend you check out Kitty Horror Show's itch.io page instead to experience this title. With Discombobulation still being a Roblox game, I'm going to cover it in this video. Discombobulation is incredibly quiet. Out of the games I've covered today in this video, this one is easily the most hushed and reserved. Slowly wandering through this incredibly dark home, the only sounds that seem to linger in the background is the gentle hum of an old CRT television or perhaps another lone appliance, such as the tape recorder you stumble upon when you make your way into the kitchen.
In the psychology of the modern civilized human being, it is difficult to overstate the significance of the house.
These tapes that you find lingering across the house like scraps detail a monologue in which the reader discusses the importance of the house. The tape recorder makes the initial important distinction that these homes in which we find ourselves are one of the major things that separate humanity from then to now. That is, until taking a much more dissectional approach to analyzing our homes of today.
The anatomy of the house is such that this analogy is less superficial than at first it may seem. To carry it further, if we were to dissect a house as we might a human cadaver, we would find ourselves able to isolate and describe its various appendages and their functions in a decidedly anatomical fashion.
Each time the tape recorder stops its speech, you're left once again with the crushing silence of being alone. The hum of static continues as you navigate the unfamiliar house to find all of its tapes. It doesn't help that the tape recorder divulges more into the anatomy of a home and its potential similarities to our own bodies. The many posters and framed pictures on the walls of this barren home depicting medical studies, or simply bizarre framings of older structures and abstract concepts.
For example, let us examine the living room. The living room is very much the heart of the house. While a human heart circulates blood to oxygenate the body's extremities, the living room circulates people, activity, communication.
The tapes continue on, relating a living room to a beating heart with the warmth of the fireplace and activity of its residents, the kitchen to the stomach for obvious reasons, and the stairs reminiscent of a human spine serving as the backbone that connects the upper to the lower half of the house. However, it ends this analogy with the point that the windows serve as eyes, as if the house is conscious and sentient.
The windows of a house serve much the same purpose as eyes, and anyone who has ever rounded a bend or long drive and come suddenly face to face with a tall, dark manor will tell you that it is difficult to shake the impression that the house, through its lightless windows, is a creature capable of vision and intelligence.
It's unnerving as the recorder elaborates more with each tape, as if depicting us as a parasite moving through this living host.
If the bedroom represents the thinking, dreaming part of the brain, then it is the basement that represents those lower, unconscious parts. The basement is dark. It is buried. It is a place full of cobwebs where memories are stored. is not unlike gazing down at the swimming blackness pooled at the bottom of a basement stairwell. It is a place we spend our childhoods filling with monsters that will lay for years in patient silence.
Thankfully, the basement is not filled with the potential monsters the tape speaks of.
While poets and psychoanalysts no doubt dread the thought of a dark basement, in truth, it is the bedroom, the waking mind, that place of dreams, that is actually the most frightening of all. It is here, in the bedroom, that we are at our most vulnerable. In this state of extreme vulnerability, we will spend something like 20% of our lives. Anything might stand beside us, watch us, keep us company until dawn, and we would never perceive it. In this way, during these hours, the bedroom seems less like a mind and more like a mouth. For it is here that the house is most likely to betray us. It is here that we place ourselves most at the house's mercy and spend each night hoping that it will not bite down.
Part 2 is different. Not just because the house is sentient, as its walls had previously warped and twisted, but on an atmospheric level as well. The once consistent sound of the recorder humming in the background has now been morphed into a rhythm much akin to that of a beating heart.
In the psychology of the modern civilized human being, it is difficult to...
The tapes have now become bastardized, much lower in quality now as they attempt to spit the same speech out at you as they had done before. It's as though the tapes, as much as the house around you, have become significantly more corrupted. This building is sick. As well as the old tapes did at masking that fact, they now only seem to deteriorate the building you're in, spawning other tape recorders around the property like cysts. This tape recorder in particular plays the bedtime prayer, "Now I lay me down to sleep." It's a prayer that has a dozen iterations, but in this specific setting it takes the more sinister of its variations as it mentions dying in your sleep. It builds upon the earlier narrative that Discombobulation, Anatomy by Kitty Horror Show, sought to build that the house is alive, its mouth the bedroom as it swallows you whole in your sleep.
It is easy to think of the kitchen and dining room as the stomach or digestive system of a house, though this comparison is tenuous.
Putting more and more tapes into the tape recorder, it only seems to get worse. Very rarely does the speaker deliver their monologue. Instead, now, the recorder simply sputters static out as it reads the corrupted tapes you insert, occasionally reciting a few words from the original recordings. Perhaps in the most sinister twist thus far, the game has redeveloped its consciousness.
In the bedroom,
I dream that there are teeth growing all over me, everywhere on me and in me, like cysts or bone spurs. They're loose, but I can't remove them because I have no hands. I look out through the bedroom window and I see a truck approaching. A young man steps out, approaches, and enters through the front door. His body is covered in swollen ticks the size of quarters. He's walking through the downstairs hallway laughing. He begins urinating on the wall. He spits on the carpet. He's moving through the first floor, breaking and upsetting things. He goes to the basement and stands at the top of the stairs. I'm angry at him, so I slam the door and he falls down. I can feel his bones snapping. The tecks are bursting, oozing old black blood everywhere. I can feel him being ground up, dissolved and torn, splitting and shredding. I leave the door closed. I close my eyes and try to sleep. The teeth continue growing on me until there's nothing left of me but teeth and gums and sinew.
The basement is dark.
The house is now red with malice as it seems to be torn apart via these erratic flashing poles that flow through the hallways, much to the same argument as made earlier that the house sports veins that support blood flow through the halls. The tapes are now horribly corrupted, no longer just simple distortions of previous monologues, but now looping segments that seem to scream out, until finally the house regains its consciousness again.
If we were to dissect the house, we would find organs and stomach, brains and minds and eyes. Dreams and memories and a mouth that will bite down.
There is an important distinction that must be drawn between the words dissection and vivisection, a distinction that would appear to be lost on you. Your purpose was to listen, and yet at every turn you have pried, you have prodded, and you have interfered. Have you not been paying attention? Did it not occur to you that as an organism existing within a greater organism, your intrusion would be felt? And still you harassed. And now, like the wayward spider who witlessly settles upon a sweeper's tongue, you will be swallowed. Because the truth is this. When a house is both hungry and awake, every room becomes a mouth.
What happens to a house when it is left alone? When it becomes worn and aged? When its paint peels and its foundations begin to sink? When it goes for too long unlived in? What does it think of? What does it dream? How does it regard those creatures who built it, brought it into existence only to abandon it when its usefulness no longer satisfies them? It may grow lonesome. It may stare for long hours into the darkness of its own empty halls and see shadows, and its heart may jump as it thinks, here's someone again, I'm not alone. And each time it is wrong, and the